Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show. My name is Rich.
And I'm Gary.
Hey, Gary, how's it going this week?
Okay, Rich. Still quarantined here in New York, and as you are in New Jersey. But
Jersey, yeah.
doing the best we can to get by.
Yes, we are on this May 14th, 2020. We got some good news. Well, somewhat good news. We'll talk about a little later in the broadcast. Possible baseball returning to a stadium near you.
Possibly, Rich, but I don't know. I think there's a lot of obstacles they have to pass first, and we'll chat about that.
Yes, indeed. And to open the show this week, I thought we would fill a little time, so to speak, since the baseball world is kind of slow with news. Talk a little bit about our podcast and, maybe some of the equipment that we use and, for people that are interested in that. I know we get a lot of views on our one video that we did on a sports podcast. And I was just listening this past week. I always listen to a podcast from Libsyn, which is one of the largest podcast aggregators out there. And they had an interesting thing to say about Anchor. They're always sort of bashing Anchor a little bit, if you want to know the truth. But I think, as you heard on the intro of the show, Gary and I both use it now. We like it. And it's a one-stop shop, Gary, for anybody that really wants to get into the podcasting game.
Yeah, it certainly is, Rich, and it's relatively simple to use. I like Libsyn a lot. I really did. I enjoyed it. I was on Libsyn, as you know, for a number of years. I have no complaints. I recommend them to anybody. Um, Part of the reason I switched was that I'm retired now. I'm on fixed income, and I was paying $15 a month for hosting fees. And to be honest with you, $15 a month extra comes in handy when you're on a fixed income. So I left for Anchor. I put my show Mitch Musings on both for a while to see. I didn't want to make any hasty decisions, and decided to go with Anchor, and it's worked out fine so far. I have no complaints. Because after I did it, the pandemic came, and numbers dropped for everybody. But other than that, no complaints at all. Anchor's done a great job for me, and I can't say enough for it.
Yeah, it's awesome. And they also give you the opportunity to earn something towards your podcast. If you're going to do a show and you can get a following together, you can earn a few pennies here and there and build your podcast up a little bit. So that a couple of things we wanted to talk about before we bring the baseball show into play here. Gary, I saw a nice new mixer, as a matter of fact, that we might want to check out. It's called the L8 by Zoom, and it's not the same Zoom that we're using here on our video portion of the show, but it's a different company named Zoom that make a nice product on that mixer. I'm wondering if you've seen it. It's called the L8. It's got a interface to it.
I have seen that, Rich. Zoom that we're talking about is a digital recording. They make digital recorders. You'll see if you watch in the locker rooms, you'll see a lot of guys that they have a Zoom. I have two of them. I have an H2N handheld and H4N, I think it is, and have used them in the past. I have seen that mixer. I have also seen another mixer that I like, in particular, the Rode Procaster. But the Zoom is a great product, and anybody starting out, if they wanted to go with the Zoom, believe me, you're not giving up any quality. They're good stuff, and I really like my Zoom products, and I'm sure you would like it too. What do you like so
Excellent.
much about it, Rich?
It's got some features that you would generally have to add on to a podcast to make it more difficult. It's got about 8 little buttons up on the one side that you can program for your opening music. Say you have a commercial you want to bring into a program or an interview or something like that. You
Mhm.
can easily program them right into, I believe it's about 8 different buttons that they have up on top of the unit, and it's specifically geared towards podcasting. It has a separate um, type of system where if you're going to record a guest on the phone, you can simply plug your phone into this mixer on the top port, and it's going to automatically mix minus. And what that is when you're talking through either your webcam microphone or, as Gary and I are, our regular microphones here going through the computer, it prevents the person on the phone from hearing both sides and their own responses coming back to them. So it's just simple as plugging your phone into the port, and it's going to do it all automatically for you. And if you've and Gary and I have both probably spent an hour or two trying to figure out how to do that on a regular mixer. That's worth a little bar of gold, about a half an ounce of gold, and save you from the heartaches and trials and tribulations of trying to get that right, because it does it automatically for you.
It's the little things in life, Rich.
It's the little things that add up to be so big when you're doing a podcast. So every once in a while, I figured it's good to chat about podcasting. For the people out there, I know there's a lot of listeners that like to listen to the banter about that. And if you do like our podcast all that much, I want to encourage you over to our Anchor site. It's anchor.fm/baseball talk radio show into the browser there. From there, you can listen to all our programs. You can support the show by a little click box button in the center top of the web page there, and it's going to be a secure link to make either $1 a month, $2, $3 a month, whatever you can afford comfortably to support the program. Because as Gary says, it's not free to podcast. A lot of people think, they don't have a dime invested in it, so I'm not going to give them $1 or a dime to rub together on it. But that's not true. So if you'd like to support the program, I wholeheartedly invite you over to anchor.fm baseball talk radio show. That's the / after the anchor.fm. You can even send us a message if you have something you want us to talk about, something like that, uh, and have the links to the shows where you can listen to us from.
Rich, a good point. I mean, you can start a podcast, do a podcast for literally nothing nowadays. Not when we started. It still costed a little bit of money, but you can start it literally at nothing if you have a computer, either a headset with a microphone or a USB, or even a cell phone. You can start one now. But you'll find, like we did, that as you get into it and you want to have guests and this sort of thing, you have to put a little bit of money into it. It it can be done reasonably cheap, but you're going to eventually spend a couple $100 if nothing else. A good microphone's about $100. You can get a good microphone. A good mixer can be anywhere from 100 to 1,000. For
Yeah.
podcasting, you don't have to get into a crazy thing. But still, you can get a decent one for $100 or something. Pick a used one up for 40 or 50. But it's always plan if you ever decide to do a podcast, plan for the future. Somewhere down the line, you want to have guests on, plan for it now because you're gonna. Uh, learn a lot about things. And if you start off with some of the equipment now, and I'm not saying you have to go whole hog, but if you start off with some of it, you'll learn how to use it as you go along for just yourself, or if you have somebody in the studio with you. And then when you do start doing the phone calls and something, at least you'll have a little bit of knowledge. Part of the stuff, and I shouldn't really talk for Rich, but I think that's part of the thing we learned on the fly. I mean, we had a guest on, and we're plugging phones in here and there and trying to see how it worked, and discovered different ways of doing things. Um, and hopefully, but we're still learning, right, Rich? I mean, I
Yeah.
still get a noise, a static once in a while with the audio. Can't figure out where it comes from. We got to rip things apart and go through all kinds of gyrations to try to figure it out. Sometimes you fix it, sometimes you can't. So sometimes we'll have great audio, and sometimes it's not. But
Yeah.
we try to get it as consistent and as good as possible every time. So, but we're always learning, Rich.
Yeah, it's always a work in progress, and that's the good thing about it is, over the years, podcasting has become and internet broadcasting. I want to call it more than podcasting. That's real old term back when there was iPods, and they don't even make iPods anymore. I don't think so. I think the real term should be internet broadcast now, but we'll see over time if that changes as well. But yeah, as you said, Gary, it's always evolving, new tools, new information. And as a lot of us have already experienced, if you're working from home, you have to communicate with your office. You have these Zoom meetings. You had to have a learning curve of this stuff. So it's keeps you interested if this is something you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, when we started, Rich, we had Skype. That was it. That was shaky. Then we had Google Hangouts for a while, and they're still around, but now it's Google Duo or something with Google. But now there's so many. Now you got Zoom, and people are using these things, and it's so much easier with a thing like Zoom and the Cisco WebEx, and it's even some audio
Google.
products out there that you
Yeah.
told me about. So
Yeah.
it's getting easier for people to do this sort of thing, but I don't know. I'm kind of jealous because when we started, we had to feel our way, right?
Yeah, now Google, of course, back into the meeting. It's called Google Meeting. They're back into the interface of allowing meetings. And not big on Google though. They'll come out with something, Gary, and then 6 months from now you get used to it and you like it, and oh, we're going to end it in
Yeah.
4 months. So, but you also have Microsoft with Microsoft Teams. If you have a co-host you want to correspond with, or if you don't, you can go right through the anchor.fm website. They've got a brilliant setup there, and you can get your show on in just a few minutes. So we're looking forward to hearing from you. Send us a message if you want us to talk about anything specifically. But Gary, we got a little bit of sun shining on the baseball world this week with some news.
Yes, the owners have approved the proposal to restart baseball in July. Negotiations with the Major League Players Association will begin on Tuesday, or began on Tuesday, I should say. Um, Rich, I get I'm getting more pessimistic every day that we're going to have a season, and I'm almost getting to the point that I believe they should have canceled the season completely. I think that this negotiation, and I could be wrong, but I think it's going to leave a bad taste in everybody's mouth. I think it's going to tick off a lot of fans, and nobody's going to come out of this a winner,
Yeah.
especially in Major League Baseball. Um, some of the questions that they're going to have is this payment. How are the players going to get paid? How many games are they going to play? I think a lot of them said they settled on 82. The owners, um, and the safety measures. That's going to be a big thing. I think the players are going to push the safety measures because they don't like the payment plan. They talked about revenue sharing and cutting salaries and whatnot. And of course, the union never goes for that kind of stuff. And the agents don't like it, or some of the agents. Scott Boras came out, of course, and said that they should just reject this proposal. Um, if they reject the proposal, the Players Association, they better have a good enough reason. And I don't think I think the reason is going to be money, but they're going to use the safety excuse as reason, and I don't think either one is going to float with the average fan. People want to see baseball. They're tired and they're tired of millionaires complaining about money. They're not getting enough paid, and then of course the safety measures. Well, people are going to say, "Look, we can go stand online at Walmart and everything else. Why can't you go out and play a game of baseball?" I don't think they're in a good position. I just think that this negotiation, it should have been done either quietly or not so much in the press. And Manfred's big for negotiating in the press. I think it can leave a bad taste in everybody's mouth, and then throw in the universal DH for the one season. I don't buy that. I think this is the beginning. They're going to have it for the one season. And the next season, they'll say, well, it works so good. Why don't we just keep it? And then before you know it, they've snuck it underneath quickly. And, I don't know. And I think people are going to just not like it. I think it's going to be nasty, the negotiation. We'll see. I mean, it could go smoothly, but already players are saying rejected for safety measures, and as soon as that starts, and then we didn't even get to the money yet, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, as you said, baseball already got a punch in the nose upon a day afterwards, after the meeting was disclosed. It was a multi-hour meeting between the Major League Baseball and the Players Association, and it addressed the complex issues facing the restart. I'm reading here from an ESPN article about specifically the pandemic. As you said, did not go into money, which is a concern as well. But they have to iron out first what the whole season may look like, the number of games. It's a complicated issue to get solved in a short amount of time, and neither side is probably in a rush to do it. We heard from a few players. As you said, we heard from a superstar agent that automatically went out and said the player should reject it. But I'm not sure on what basis, other than money, that he was concerned with. But there's so many issues involved in this. And as far as the I'm lost for words here. As far as the designated hitter is concerned, I think that is going to be necessary if both leagues meld together in these revised divisions that they're talking about, because probably would be easier to do it that way rather than force the American League to adopt to the National League rules. And as you said, I'm in favor for it just for this season. If it were to happen, I'm not really in favor for it, but I don't think we have a choice too much.
Right.
But it's going to be tough. We already had Blake Snell come out and say that he's diametrically opposed to reducing his salary, number one. and especially because the risk of contracting the coronavirus is, quote unquote, in his words, just not worth it. So he made those comments on one of his video game broadcasts, and maybe he wishes he didn't do that now, because he's really the only player out there with a 15-minute explanation on why he doesn't want to play baseball. But it may go deeper than that. There might be other players that have concerns. Here's a quote from him. "Bro, I'm risking my life," Snell said. "What do you mean it shouldn't be a thing? It should be 100% be a thing. If I'm going to play, I should be getting the money I signed up to be getting paid. I should not be getting half of what I'm getting paid because the season's cut in half. On top of a 33% cut of the half that's already there," I'm assuming he's referring to taxes, "so I'm really getting like 25%. So Blake Snell has done the math. He doesn't like what he sees, and it'll be interesting to see what comes of this.
But you're also the contract is also based on a 162 game season, and if you're only playing 82 games, why should you be getting paid for a 162 game season? I mean, there's that argument as well. Um,
True.
I don't know. I just think that they probably would have been better off canceling the season in the beginning and just forgotten about it, because as I say, I think this is going to get nasty. The players are going to want this, and that, and then the fans. It's always the fan that gets hurt in the end, and fans are getting disgusted now, and they get pissed off with millionaire owners and billionaire owners and millionaire players, and they're crying about this, that, and the other thing, and I get the safety, but is he really risking his life? I mean, look at the percentile rate of this pandemic. We have twice as many people dying of the flu, and we don't close the damn thing down for that. Um, but
Yeah, and
that's for
that's a
another show.
number,
That
and that's a number that I really never thought about, never even entered into my mind to think about that. We may have read it in a newspaper or online somewhere, but now we can really see the devastation that the flu does on this country on a yearly basis.
and yet there's nothing we do about it. We don't. Again, this is probably for another show, but we don't even know if the numbers are true with this virus. I heard somebody from Illinois, the health commission, is saying, well, if somebody came into the hospital, and if they were in hospice and they came into the hospital and they had like days to live, and then they test them and they had the COVID, then they're putting it down as a COVID death. Well, what about the other thing that they only had days to live with a bad heart or a cancer of some sort, and then you're going to put it as a COVID death? So we don't even know
Yeah.
how accurate the numbers are. We could be off by 20% or 25%. Again, that's probably for another show. That maybe we should start
Yeah.
another podcast completely out of baseball to discuss this stuff. But there's just so much that they can't control. And I mean, look, they're talking about the All-Star game supposed to be in LA this year. Well, LA is going to be shut down to what, August now? I think the mayor said he's shutting it down for 3 more months. So how are the Dodgers and Angels going to play there? California is still shut down, the governor. How are the Padres and the Giants? So you got four or five teams out there that are not going to be allowed to even play probably in their home fields. Um, I just don't get the sense behind it at this point, and I'm concerned that it is gonna. Had they made the clean break in March when with all of this started, and they said, "Look, we're not playing this year. We'll negotiate your contracts and all of this stuff." then I think they'd be a lot better off because they could do that quietly. Now the pressure's on them to get back into to play, and these negotiations are going to be out there. So anything that's out there is not going to. I don't think it's going to be good. Hopefully, it is good. It goes smoothly. I don't think it's good. It never goes smoothly when they're negotiating. Very, very rarely. And Manfred doesn't strike me as Mr. Smooth with the negotiations. Seelig had it down when he got different concessions and gave different concessions and had labor peace for 20 years. I don't
Yeah.
think Manfred's like that. He wants to start a pot and get things done, and I think he's going to have a lot of problems, in
Yeah,
my opinion.
and here it says in an article, Rob Manfred, it says that 40% of MLB revenue is tied to the gate, including concessions, parking, ballpark advertising, luxury suites, and programs. So you don't have uh, attendees, you don't have people paying a price to get into the ballpark, and now all of a sudden that revenue is going to go down. The players' salaries are huge, as you said in the beginning of the show. They're not playing the full season. The 50-50 split they're talking about is of revenue from regular season and postseason. So, depending on right now, there's still a large portion of the population, as you said, that is locked down. Stay-at-home orders still apply. New York, New Jersey, California, three of the biggest areas in the country are still under lockdown. That could change by July, but there could be a big revenue source coming into MLB. These uh, networks and things and online will pay a decent price, I believe, to broadcast these games. So I don't think the players should be as interested in how much they're going to get paid because this is going to be an asterisk season anyway. Um, you know, play this season, get on the field. I know the second and most probably primary concern they should have is their own health safety. They are professional athletes, but as we've seen, this virus knows no bounds on, you know, who it attacks, mainly the elderly, but not always. So the players do have a legitimate concern with their health issues. I feel that's primary. The money can come later, I think, and I think they'll be okay for a half a season. As you said, Gary, I don't think most people have sympathy for people that are watching guys play and getting paid millions for it. Um, and now they're going to take a reduced salary. I know a lot don't make millions either, but they're still playing a game and getting paid for it. They're professional athletes. Um, it would be a huge mistake on both sides to not play this year, and especially over money. I can see health. If health is the primary concern with the players and they voted down because of that, then the season folds up and we do it again in 2021. That's the way it has to go down. Money cannot play an issue in this, or the fans may desert this game as they did in '94.
Well, I think even with the health issue, they're going to have a problem because a lot of people are going to say, then wear masks or you know we have to go to work. We're going to work, and we're out there. Police, firemen are out there, and you guys can't go out and play a game where you don't have to. There can be some distance. Um, I don't know. I think the safety issue is going to be tough. It's going to be tough, and I get it. The locker room, everybody's closed in there, and everything like that. The travel and all of that, but there are ways they were going to surround around that too. But um, I don't know. I get pessimistic every day that they're going to play it, or a, and b, whether it's even going to be worth it. Um, because if you start getting guys saying I'm gonna sit out the year, I'm not gonna play, it's gonna make a lot of issues, And add on the fact that they want to contract minor league baseball, which is another thing that God can only figure out why they want to do that. If you're trying to grow a game, why are you contracting it? They're trying to make more money for the owners, and I think Manfred, that's all he's interested in, is making more money for the owners, so he can hang on to his job. And I think it's at the detriment of the game. And uh, but that's another issue that they're gonna contract these minor league teams, and now they've almost agreed to it, and they've got another wacky plan going. And now all of a sudden, for instance, the Brooklyn Cyclones going to be in the South Atlantic League now. I don't understand that. They're going to be playing with all these teams in Georgia and uh, Carolina and everything, and then you got Brooklyn. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's so messed. There's so much messed up in the game of baseball right now that they should have took one headache at a time. If they wanted to do this contraction, that's fine, but then cancel the season, work through the contraction, and work through how you're going to take care of the players this year, and then go next year. But to have all of this together in one mishmash, and and then they put the draft down to 5 rounds to save money. It doesn't look good. It's not a good photo op or whatever you want to call it. It just doesn't look good for the game, and I think it's going to leave a lot of people angry.
Yeah. But, with this time and the situation that everybody's going through, I agree with the minor leagues, but that was something that started well before all this virus came into play. So that was a ball that was rolling by itself on its own before any of this virus really reared up its ugly head. But as you said, fans don't understand somebody, and I don't really care how much you make. I'm back to work, as I told our listeners last week. I wasn't in favor of it right away because, I'm still concerned over my health. I'm concerned over my safety. I'm concerned over the people that I work with safety. That's always going to be there because nothing has changed with the pandemic. And I'm sure that's going to be primary on the minds of the players when they start melding together again. They've been locked down just as we have, although some of the states have reopened now. So maybe they're assimilating into some sort of a new role and going out of the house, going places, doing this, doing that. But when you start back up again, it's like, oh, wow, we're still in this pandemic. I've got a mask on. I can't touch this. I can't touch my face, baseball, and you got people spitting. And I just read something online that they would outlaw that. But it's one of those things that's a natural. It's going to be harder to stop than you think.
Exactly.
How to protect the catcher is another article I was just perusing. You got a catcher right behind multiple batters. They're constantly breathing in that area. It's going to be tough. I'm telling you. I'm reading a fan on Twitter right now after Blake Snell. Cannot imagine how many fans you've lost over your greed. 25 million people out of work, and it ain't worth it for you to come back and throw a baseball for 4 months for millions of dollars. So that's the kind of comeback Blake Snell is going to face. And he may have tarnished his whole career by going out and saying these things in public. Fine if he thinks about it, but to go out and put yourself as the poster child, you have to walk the walk and talk the talk now.
Yeah, I mean, Altuve went out there and said to reject it, but he said to reject it on safety. It's not safe.
Right.
And, of course, Chapman answered him by saying, I got a 95-mile-per-hour fastball with your name on it that's not going to be safe for you, or something like that, kidding around. But the point is, at least he came out with that argument. He didn't. He was smart enough not to come out with the money argument. The money argument is not a good argument for the players at this point in time, because it's to me. I know everybody hates the owners, the billionaire owners, and everything, but it is easier to make an argument for them and say, they have to try to cut the salary because they don't have the income coming in. It's just like somebody at home. If you're home quarantined now, can you go buy a new car? No, because you're not having a salary coming in. You can't afford it right now unless you're wealthy. Um, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, pick on you, Rich, with the new car, but it's just an example. But you know what I mean? It's just you can't do it, and then here they want this. The players want the whole salary. It's just I think Snell made himself look bad. He's going to have a lot of enemies now, and he brought it all on himself. He can't blame anybody. It was his big mouth saying this, and I, I just feel like maybe it was a whole big mistake that when they stopped the season, they should have just canceled it. But I guess everybody figured this would be up in 90 days or 20 days or 30 days. It'll all be taken care of and cleaned up, and it's gone on longer than that, whether it needed to or we're still feeding into it by certain parts of society. But I don't know. It's just it doesn't seem feasible at this time. We all want the game to come back, but they're going to shoot themselves in the foot. I have a feeling, and that's not going to be good either.
Yep. Well, send us your comments in. You can send them to Gary at baseballtalkradio.com. You can send them in to me at Rich at baseballtalkradio.com. That's our address. Or you can go right up to our anchor.fm site, anchor.fm/baseball talk radio show. There's a little message button there. You can click that, type right into it, and send us via that way as well. Gary, I think you're right. The comments are coming in, monitoring them here on Twitter. How sad, this one guy says, how sad and selfish of Blake Snell. Everyone is hurting financially. Baseball resuming would help America. I get not wanting to risk your life. That's fine, but using it as an excuse because the MLB won't pay you for canceled games. And then I can't repeat the next line because we're still a family show here.
Yeah, I think we can use our imagination for that. And this is what's going to happen. And it's going to happen when he goes to a stadium, whether he pitches this year, if he sits out, or next year. Forget it. Next year, if he sits out the year, forget it. What's going to happen when he comes back? I mean, they'll be all over him. Sometimes discretion is the better part of valor. You just got to keep your mouth shut and swallow it and let your association, your union take care of it and let them argue it out and work it out and tell your union leaders or your shop stewards or whatever they call them in that particular union there that I'm not happy with this, but don't go on Twitter. It's a funny thing, Rich. This new social media, these guys are very good at using it, and they enjoy it and everything, and that's terrific. But you still got to be careful with it because what you say, we used to tell my daughter this: once you say something at 18 or 17 or 15, could come back to haunt you 10, 12 years later, depending upon whatever you're looking for in a job or whatever. If you're going to the FBI or something like that, they'll go back and they'll look and they'll see you said something maybe that doesn't agree with them or whatever. And the same thing with ball players. People are gonna find that stuff, and they're gonna. And you know what people do now is they see it, they copy it right away, and then somebody goes and deletes it, and then they say, "Yeah, but I've got it here. I copied it. You said that." So it's social media is great, but it's tough also.
Yeah. And again, he said it during a video game broadcast on a channel called twitch.tv, where, to his credit, he's probably one of the most social people that is on that network. And he talks and communicates back and forth to his fans. So, in watching him over the last few months on the, because he won the whole Players League in MLB, the show, he's a very nice person, very, fan friendly to his group of people that tune in and watch him. So I myself am not going to hold that against him at all. I sort of get what he means. He's a younger guy. He's got a big contract all of a sudden. He wants to get paid. And I don't think it's sort of a greedy thing on his part. It's almost like anybody that's going to return back to work who's been making a lot of money on unemployment, for example. A lot of people are making more on unemployment than they ever made on a job. So
Yeah,
they don't want that gravy train to end. A lot of people, they want to go back and
don't want to go.
and sell clothes at wherever, or pour coffee for people for half the amount or less. Put yourself into his shoes in relation to that. I know he's talking millions and other people are talking a couple thousand, but I don't hold nothing against him for any of these comments. That's just me. I understand what he means, and he did throw the health thing in there, which is primary. And we'll have to see what happens with this guy. As you said, as each day goes by, I think we're on sort of a same wavelength. I'm sort of getting the feeling that we may not see baseball this year.
I get pessimistic by the day, and only because when they talked about the negotiations and they went, uh, the union doesn't seem willing to take pay cuts now. I just can't see them caving in, and I can't see the owners caving in, and I can't I can't blame either side theoretically. But I think if you're a player, you have to look at it that, and this argument could be made for both sides. If you're a player, you could say, I only got a short period of time. I need to play. And then the flip of that is that the player can also say, and that's why I have a short period of time. That's why I have to make my full salary. But I think you have to realize sometimes that you are in an entertainment business, and people want to be entertained, and they find other entertainments, and it can happen very quickly. And then what happens? Then the gravy train runs dry. Yeah, you're going to get your salary, but what about the guy 3 years from now? He's not going to get that money because it's not going to be there. The money's not going to be there. And again, I don't want to be the guy that steps up for the owners all the time, but somebody said, well, what are the owners got billions here? But the owners are the ones that put their money up. I don't see a player never came in and said, here's $1 million or $2 million or $3 million. Go get this guy. Very rarely do you see somebody rearrange their contract so they can get another player. It's the owners that bought the team, that put the investment in certain instances in the stadium, they have to still pay their front office people and certain people that work in the stadium. Um, and they're not getting nearly the same amount of money as these players. So I understand it's a safety issue, but these guys are all in great shape. They're supposedly in good health. All the data shows that the age ranges of players are not that affected that much. I think they have to do some hard, long thinking, and if they decide they don't want to play because of safety, that's fine. but don't make it about the money. Don't then keep the money out of it. Just say the safety measures aren't good enough. We don't feel comfortable, and think it should be canceled. Don't bring the money in because that's when the fans get ticked off.
Yeah, and they don't understand everything as well as, somebody that's playing the game, owners and management, of course, but, they'll go out on a side. And as you said, they could pick the side of going away from baseball, getting away from the game. And as you said, there's still hurdles to overcome. California apparently closed. You have Arizona and Florida, though, that are welcoming the teams to come down there. I think that might be the best decision that they can make is take one side of the country to Arizona, take the other side to Florida, play as many games as you can, call it a season, put asterisks next to it, and at least we had some baseball. To expect the whole country to be open in time for this, I think is a stretch. To expect fans to show up, I think is a stretch at this point. And I think they should go with the best way that's not going to upset the apple cart. And in my eyes, it would be holding it in two different states, Arizona and Florida. Call it a day. It's going to be over in a few months. 80 games. It's going to be a race to the finish. It's just going to be something to occupy our time. And for the players, they'll be able to play. But, Gary, we'll see what happens with this. But as you said, I'm very pessimistic at this point.
Negotiations are underway. And something else that happened, Rich, this week, this was a little surprising too. I don't know if you saw this. The fifth World Baseball Classic, which had been set to take place in March of 2021, has been canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic and will not be played. It will be pushed back to March 2023, pending the approval of the tournament board, and that comes from a tweet from Joel Sherman of the New York Post. So they already canceled the World Baseball Classic for next March and waiting 2 more years to play it. I mean, that's really pushing things out there.
Yeah, and that says something of the global reach of this pandemic. It's not something that just happened in America. It happened all over the world. It's something that hasn't happened probably since 1918 with the Spanish flu pandemic that we've known about anyway. So it's been a world issue. It's a big event. It's not something that just went away like SARS did, even though it's a adjunct of the SARS virus. SARS never got underway. It got squashed quick. This has been a different subject. It's been a different pandemic on its own, and people are still dying, and they're going to continue to die at a faster rate now that everything's open again as part of this herd immunity type of thing. That's part of it. You're not going to get away from it, unfortunately. And the key for the next several months for our listeners and us, Gary, is to try to stay as healthy as we can with our masks, keep washing the hands, stay safe, and survive. We need to survive. That's bottom line.
And listen to podcasts.
And yeah, there's a big drop in podcasts. And I know why. People listen on the way to and from work. They're not going to work. Maybe they're at home. They don't want to listen to a podcast at home. They've been doing other things with the family, surviving, a lot of people aren't happy to be home. They're and talking with a few people that I have since I've been out of the house now, it's been a struggle for a lot of people. A lot of people are going to end up in a divorce over this pandemic. Husband and wives have been together under the same roof for several months. That doesn't happen normally. So it's been a question of survival for a lot of people, and a lot of people are busting out of states that are open. They can't wait to get back to a quote unquote normal life, but we're not ready for that yet. But it's going to take more people with it, unfortunately, Gary. And I know we're baseball talk, but we're still in a mode of survival, in my opinion.
Well, and it's a thing that's excuse me, that is affecting all of us, and it's something that everybody has to talk about nowadays.
Yep, that's for sure. And talk about it we like to. And we hope you enjoyed this podcast. Check us out every week. Subscribe to our show if you're at Google Podcasts or Apple Podcasts, as they call themselves now. Please hit the subscribe button. You'll get our show updated each week and available to listen to. And Gary, once again, it's been a great show, and always looking forward to the next one.
Me too, Rich. It's the highlight of the week. Always a pleasure to talk with you.